Assalamualaikum to Dr. Munira and Dr. Hashim. My name is Nabila and I would like to present my topic on strengthening community resilience to sustain and stabilize communities in Malaysia throughout and beyond COVID-19. As we are aware about the origin of COVID-19, the impact of the pandemic has been escalating drastically to the point of reaching 79.7 million cases, with about 1.75 million deaths recorded as of 26 December 2020. Not only it has severely caused detrimental health impacts, but globally we are actually facing other socio-economic problems that have long existed but is now magnified to a larger scalability due to the pandemic. From the starting point until the peak of the pandemic, health-wise, Malaysia has displayed speedy pandemic response that has kept the infection cases and deaths relatively lower compared to the countries in the West due to a few factors. Yet, this is only the beginning of the recovery phase, or we call it as the new normal, because we have to address and mitigate even more issues that are interrelated with each other. The new normal phase has been observing social adjustments that involves a series of changes just to resume basic community or society functions, which then led to livelihood interruption. This interruption would not favor vulnerable groups and marginalized communities should there be no viable solutions to increase community resilience in the long run. Among the problems that would affect the society are job insecurity, socio-economic discrimination, lack of access to basic healthcare needs, loss of livelihood quality, and work-life conflicts. One would look at all these problems as a challenge to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. However, this can also be seen as an opportunity to reach some of these goals, such as Goal 3, 5, 6, and 11. And these goals can also be addressed by strengthening community resilience throughout and beyond COVID-19. Firstly, we have to understand the concept of resilience, in which Marston defines it as the potential of the manifested capacity of a dynamic system to adapt successfully to disturbances that threaten the function, survival, or development of the system. According to Kim Hee, in 2014, there are 3 levels of resilience: individual, community, and national resilience, in which all 3 contribute to good coping with the aftermath of major potentially traumatic events, according to Wenrip. Community resilience expresses the interaction between individuals and their community and refers to the success of the community in providing for the needs of its members. In a case study by Kimi in 2020, it is found that the higher levels of individual, community, and national resilience have predicted lower levels of distress symptoms and higher levels of post-traumatic growth among civilians. After understanding community resilience, we now proceed to understanding and dissecting the needs of community to build the resilience itself. We can refer to Maslow's hierarchy of needs that provides a framework for understanding subjective human needs, system impacts on society, and what motivates humans, in which the hierarchy adapted from Ryan 2018 shows the society needs in response to the pandemic. In the next slide, we can actually see the Maslow hierarchy of needs that stated the basic physiological needs, which are the foundation to the hierarchy, and that includes having water, food, and shelter met at a certain degree. The Maslow hierarchy of needs adapted offers a multi-layered model where COVID-19 management activities could meet the needs of the entire society, particularly if integrated with the social determinants of health. This hierarchy can be seen through the changes in Malaysians' behavior towards COVID-19 in a case study by Ko in 2020. The pandemic actually triggered some major changes in Malaysians' behavior, ranging from panic buying to the nonchalant approach of carrying on daily life despite the MRO. This also includes returning to hometowns, which may be an act of familiarity and seen as a predetermined safe choice, which is one of the levels or needs in the hierarchy. Table 1 shows the Maslow hierarchy of needs and impact of COVID-19 lockdown, which was adapted from Ryan in 2018. As you can see, the fundamental of the hierarchy is the physiological needs, followed by safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. The first three levels can actually be seen in the changes or response of humans towards COVID-19, and that includes Malaysians as well. It is important to identify the proper instruments to measure the level of community resilience in response to COVID-19. In a social case study by Kim Hee in 2020 in Israel, there were few instruments used in two different phases, which are during the peak of the pandemic and in the beginning of the lifting of movement restriction. There are four instruments used in this social case study, which are sense of danger, secondly, distress symptoms, which are adapted from Brief Symptom Inventory by Derogatis 2000. Third, well-being, which consists of perceived individual strengths in the domains of work, health, recreation, wider social context, achievement, family relations, daily functioning, relations with friends, and general assessment of one's life. And lastly, demographic variables that consist of age, gender, family income, size of community, and economic difficulties. The social case study found that the stronger the economic difficulties, the higher the sense of danger and distress symptoms were reported. Other than that, the lower the income, the higher the sense of danger and distress symptoms. The case study also found that women is reported to have a higher level of sense of danger during the pandemic peak and higher distress symptoms across the two measurements. There are many frameworks or models for us to refer to when we wish to build community resilience. However, the real challenges are spearheading the direction of the community resilience as well as getting the communities themselves to participate. As stated by Zeglio, creating resilient communities is not about preparing them to cope with shocks and their aftermath alone. Rather, it is about what public health systems can do to strengthen protective factors, such as strong social networks, which will aid people and communities to manage, adapt, and ultimately recover well. We should be aware that strengthening community resilience in the months and years to come will require a whole system approach working with various different sectors. In regards to COVID-19, the system meant here is actually the public health system itself, which is further supported by the report on the Malaysian response to COVID-19 written in 2020. How do we involve the communities? One of it is through assessing communities' vulnerabilities and capabilities across key economic and social indicators in combination with gathering insights from the most marginalized groups, as recommended by a WHO Europe report. To ensure community engagement, it is vital to show that the diverse needs of the members of the communities have actually been addressed as far as possible, hence building trust and making the communities feel valued. Communication strategies is also vital when we engage with the communities to gain their involvement and cooperation through transparency of information, being ethical and respectful to the community needs. You can see some of these strategies in the next few slides. Table 2 shows the application of the whole community-centered public health system to the COVID-19 recovery. There are four main components in here, which are scaling, involving, strengthening, and sustaining. Table 3 demonstrates some of the communication strategies that can enhance community engagement and cooperation to build community resilience. This study aims to address a few problem statements, whereby first, as Malaysia is moving forward to the new normal phase, it is crucial for us to identify and address as many socio-economic challenges that are affecting vulnerable populations. Secondly, there's not much study done on the levels of resilience. Hence, we must understand the composition of community resilience that can be adapted to the pandemic. Who are the other involved stakeholders, and what is the comparison in the level of importance of these stakeholders' role in building community resilience? Third, how do we measure the level or quality of community resilience throughout and beyond COVID-19? This is why we need to identify the tools or instruments that can help us to measure the level or quality of community resilience. Last but not least, what are the examples of community-based approaches or frameworks that would guide us in increasing community participation as well as helping to strengthen community resilience? Based on the problem statements, this study is very inclined towards social study. Hence, it will involve a lot of observation as well as other case studies.